The wind howled like a wounded beast, rattling the wooden shutters of Emily's cabin. Snowflakes swirled violently outside, painting the world in a thick blanket of white. She tightened her knitted shawl around her shoulders and stoked the fire, the only source of warmth in the isolated wilderness. Emily had moved here 6 months ago, seeking solitude after the painful end of a long relationship. The cabin, inherited from her late grandfather, was a perfect escape. No neighbors, no distractions, just the whispering pines and the occasional cry of a distant wolf. Knock, knock, knock. Emily froze. The sound was so faint, she almost thought she imagined it. But then, knock, knock, knock. Her pulse quickened. Who could be out in this storm? Cautiously, she approached the door, her fingers trembling as they wrapped around the cold metal knob. She took a deep breath and pulled it open. A gust of icy wind slapped her face, but what she saw made her gasp. 5 tiny, shivering wolf cubs, barely old enough to walk, huddled together on her doorstep. Their fur was matted with snow, their ribs visible beneath their thin coats. The smallest one let out a weak whimper, its golden eyes locking onto hers with desperate hope. Emily's heart shattered. Oh my God! She dropped to her knees, ignoring the freezing snow seeping into her jeans. The cubs flinched but didn't run. They were too weak, too exhausted. The largest cub, a dark-furred one with a white-tipped tail, took a shaky step forward, sniffing the air. Then, as if deciding she wasn't a threat, it collapsed against her leg, its tiny body trembling. Emily didn't hesitate. "Come on, little ones," she whispered, scooping up 2 of them in her arms. "You're safe now." One by one, she carried them inside, her mind racing. Where's their mother? Why are they alone? As she wrapped them in blankets near the fire,
Where's their mother?
the smallest cub nuzzled against her hand, letting out a soft, grateful sigh. Emily swallowed hard. She had no idea what she was getting into. But one thing was certain, her life would never be the same again. The cubs devoured the warm milk and shredded chicken Emily offered, their tiny tails wagging weakly. She watched them, her heart swelling with an emotion she couldn't name. What now? Wildlife experts? Animal control? No! She couldn't risk them being separated or euthanized. Not when they looked at her like she was their only hope. The dark-furred cub, now named Shadow, licked her fingers before curling up beside the fire. The others followed, forming a small, furry pile. Emily grabbed her grandfather's old wildlife book and flipped to the wolf section. Wolf cubs stay with their mother for at least 6 months. If abandoned, they rarely survive. Her stomach twisted. Why would a mother wolf leave her babies? A sudden, distant howl pierced the night. The cub's ears perked up. Shadow let out a tiny, answering whine. Emily's breath caught. Was that their mother? She rushed to the window, peering into the storm. Nothing but swirling snow. Then another howl, closer this time. A shadow moved between the trees. Not just one, several. Emily's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a missing mother. This was something much bigger, and it was coming for them. The howls grew louder, more urgent. Emily bolted the door, her hands shaking. The cubs whimpered, sensing the tension. Shadow stood protectively in front of the others, his tiny fangs bared. Thud. Something heavy hit the porch. Emily's heart pounded in her ears. She grabbed the fireplace poker, gripping it like a lifeline. Thud, thud, then silence. A low, guttural growl vibrated through the wood. Slowly, a massive, silver-furred wolf emerged from the shadows, its golden eyes glowing in the dark. Emily's breath caught. This wasn't just any wolf. This was the alpha. It stepped forward, its gaze locked onto the cubs. Shadow let out a defiant snarl, but the alpha ignored him, instead staring straight at Emily. Then, to her shock, it bowed its head, not in aggression, in gratitude. Before she could react, the alpha turned and vanished into the storm, leaving behind a single, bloodied paw print on her doorstep. Emily's mind raced. What just happened? And why did she feel like this was only the beginning? Emily stared at the bloodied paw print, her stomach twisting. The Alpha's message was clear. Something was wrong. She knelt beside Shadow, running her fingers through his fur. "Where's your mom, little guy?" The cub whined, pressing against her leg. The others huddled closer, their tiny bodies trembling. Emily grabbed her coat and a flashlight. She had to find answers. Stepping outside, the cold wind cut through her like a knife. The snow had eased, but the forest was eerily silent. No birds, no rustling leaves, just stillness. Then a faint whimper. Her pulse spiked. Following the sound, she trudged through the snow, her boots sinking with every step. The beam of her flashlight flickered over the trees, casting long, dancing shadows. And then she saw it. A trail of blood. Fresh. Dread coiled in her chest as she followed it, her breath coming in ragged puffs. The trail led to a shallow ditch, and there, lying motionless, was a massive gray wolf. Emily's heart stopped. The wolf's side was torn open, deep claw marks raking across its ribs. Its breathing was shallow, its golden eyes half lidded with pain. The mother, she didn't think, she acted, ripping off her scarf. She pressed it against the wound. "Hold on," she whispered. "I've got you." The wolf's eyes flickered to hers. Fear, exhaustion, and then recognition. A low growl rumbled behind her. Emily froze. Slowly she turned. 3 pairs of glowing eyes stared back from the darkness. Not wolves. Something bigger. The creatures stepped forward, their massive forms illuminated by the moonlight. Emily's blood turned to ice. Bear wolves. A hybrid, mythical, deadly. They had the bulk of a grizzly, but the speed and cunning of a wolf. And their eyes intelligent. Hungry. The largest one snarled, saliva dripping from its fangs. Emily's grip tightened on the injured mother wolf. She had no weapons. No escape. Then, a weak growl. The mother wolf struggled to stand, baring her teeth despite her injuries. Emily's throat tightened. "She's protecting me." The lead beast lunged. Emily screamed. Crack! A gunshot echoed through the trees. The beast yelped, skidding to a halt. Emily whipped her head around. A man stood at the tree line, rifle raised. His face was hidden beneath a fur-lined hood, but his voice was sharp. "Run! Now!" Emily didn't hesitate. She grabbed the mother wolf's scruff, dragging her backward as the man fired again. The beast scattered, but not for long. She sprinted toward the cabin, her lungs burning. The stranger kept pace beside her, his rifle ready. "Who are you?" she gasped. He pulled down his hood, revealing piercing blue eyes and a jagged scar running down his cheek. "Name's Cole," he said grimly. "And you just walked into a war." Back inside the cabin, Emily worked frantically to stop the mother wolf's bleeding. Cole knelt beside her, his hand steady as he helped bind the wounds. The cubs whimpered, nuzzling their mother. She licked them weakly, her eyes never leaving Emily. Cole exhaled sharply. "You're lucky to be alive." Emily glared. What were those things? Bear wolves. Illegal genetic experiments. Escaped from a lab 3 months ago. He wiped blood off his hands. They'd been hunting the local wolf pack, killing them off one by one. Emily's stomach dropped. "Why?" Cole's jaw tightened. "Because the wolves are the only thing standing between those monsters and the town." A chill ran down her spine. Shadow let out a sudden, sharp bark. Emily turned, just as something slammed against the cabin wall. The entire structure shuddered. Cole grabbed his rifle. "They found us." Another crash. Claws scraped against wood. The mother wolf snarled, forcing herself up despite her injuries. Emily's hands shook as she grabbed a knife. The door splintered. A monstrous snout pushed through. Cole raised his gun. "Stay behind me." The door shuddered under the beast's weight, hinges screaming in protest. Emily clutched the knife, her pulse roaring in her ears. The cubs whimpered, pressing against their mother as the wolf bared her teeth. Weak but defiant, Cole fired. The gunshot exploded through the cabin. The beast howled, jerking back as blood sprayed the snow outside. But the reprieve lasted only seconds. Thud. Another one rammed the wall. The log beams groaned. They're flanking us. Cole barked, spinning toward the window. Emily grabbed the cubs, shoving them into the pantry. Stay there. Shadow tried to follow her, but she shut the door, his panic yips muffled behind the wood. Glass shattered. A monstrous paw swiped to the window, claws glinting. Cole fired again. Missed. The mother wolf lunged, sinking her teeth into the creature's leg. It roared, shaking her off like a rag doll. She hit the floor with a whimper, blood soaking her fur. No! Emily dug for her, but Cole yanked her back as the beast's jaws snapped where her head had been. The rifle clicked. Empty! Cole cursed, grabbing a fire poker. Back door now! They bolted just as the front door burst inward. Emily didn't look back. She hauled the injured wolf onto her shoulders, staggering under the weight as they crashed to the rear exit into the blizzard. The cold was a slap to the face. Snow blinded her as she stumbled forward, Cole dragging her toward the trees. Behind them, the cabin collapsed in cacophony of snarls and splintering wood. A shadow loomed ahead. Emily screamed, but it was the alpha. The massive silver wolf stood with a dozen others, eyes blazing. They surged past Emily, a wave of fur and fury, slamming into the pursuing beasts. Cole gripped her arm. Run. They're buying us time. As the forest erupted into snarls and howls, Emily realized with icy clarity, this wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a war, and she'd just been drafted. They ran until Emily's lungs burned. The wolves guided them through a hidden ravine, down into a cavern where the air smelled of earth and iron. Torches flickered ahead. Emily froze. People live down here? Cole wiped blood from his brow. Not people. The cavern opened into a vast chamber. Dozens of wolves lounged on furs, their eyes tracking Emily. But what made her breath catch were the humans, or what was left of them. Scarred, wild-eyed, they moved with the grace of predators. One, a woman with a gnarled scar across her throat, approached. You brought the human, she rasped. The alpha growled. The woman bowed her head. Cole exhaled. They're hybrids, lab experiments who escaped. The wolves took them in. Emily's knees buckled. The mother wolf nuzzled her hand weakly. The scarred woman pointed to the injured wolf. She is Luna, last daughter of the alpha bloodline. Her gaze pierced Emily. And you saved her. A howl echoed through the tunnels. Distant, closing in, Cole stiffened. They followed us. The hybrids grabbed weapons, crude spears, knives made from bone. The alpha snarled, fur bristling. The scarred woman pressed a blade into Emily's hand. You fight with us now. Shadow burst from a side tunnel, fur matted with snow. He barreled into Emily, whining. Behind him, the other cubs tumbled out, their tiny paws bleeding from the run. Emily clutched them, tears freezing on her cheeks. The first beast crashed into the chamber. The war had found its way home. Chaos erupted. Emily shoved the cubs behind a boulder as wolves and hybrids clashed with the monsters. Claws tore flesh. Fangs found throats. The cavern reeked of blood. Luna limped into the fray, dragging her injured body to defend her pups. Emily watched in horror as a bear wolf lunged for them. No, she didn't think. She moved. Emily's knife sank into the beast's eye. It howled, thrashing, but she held on, riding its skull like a nightmare bull. It slammed her into the wall. Pain exploded down her spine, but she stabbed again. And again, the beast collapsed, panting. Emily looked up just as another pounced. A gunshot rang out. The beast dropped. Cole stood across the chamber, rifle smoking, his face a mask of fury. The alpha fought like a demon, his silver fur matted red. One by one, the bear wolves fell. Then silence. The surviving beasts fled. The hybrids cheered, but the alpha turned to Emily, his golden eyes solemn. He bowed. The entire pack followed. The scarred woman smiled. "You are packed now." Emily sank to her knees as the cubs swarmed her, licking her wounds. Shadow curled in her lap, his tiny body warm against hers. Cole knelt beside her. "You realize what this means, right?" She stroked Luna's head, watching the wolf's chest rise and fall. Alive. Emily nodded. The lab created those monsters. And now, she was going to burn it to the ground. The underground den hummed with quiet activity as Emily sat by Luna's side, gently applying a poultice of herbs to the wolf's wounds. The cubs slept in a pile nearby, their tiny bodies rising and falling in unison. Cole approached, his face grim in the flickering torchlight. "We found something." He led her through a narrow tunnel that opened into a hidden chamber. There, on a makeshift table, lay a tattered folder stamped with a logo, Blackthorn Genetics. Emily's fingers trembled as she flipped through the files. Photos of wolves being experimented on, DNA sequencing reports, and a map with her cabin circled in red. "This is why they're here," Cole said, pointing to a document titled Project Moonstrike. They were engineering superpredators by splicing wolf and bear DNA. But the test subjects became too aggressive, uncontrollable. Emily's stomach twisted. And the wolves. Cole's jaw tightened. Natural wolves were seen as competition. They'd been systematically exterminating the local packs to clear the territory for their creations. A growl rumbled behind them. The alpha stood in the doorway, his golden eyes burning with understanding. Emily met his gaze. "We stopped them." Preparations for the raid on Blackthorn Labs were underway when Shadow began acting strangely. The little cub darted around the den, sniffing the air, his ears twitching at sounds no one else could hear. Emily knelt beside him. "What is it, boy?" Shadow let out a high-pitched whine and bolted down a side tunnel. Emily and Cole exchanged a glance before giving chase. The tunnel led to a hidden exit, where they found Shadow growling at a figure crouched in the snow, a man in a tattered lab coat, clutching a radio. Cole tackled him before he could flee. The man's ID badge read Dr. Elias Voss, lead geneticist. "You're the one who created those monsters," Emily seethed. Voss laughed, blood trickling from his lip. "You don't understand. The wolves are the real threat. They're evolving, becoming smarter." He pointed a shaking finger at Shadow. "That one shouldn't be able to track like that. None of them should." A burst of static came from the radio. Then a voice. "Team en route to coordinates. Extermination protocol authorized." Emily's blood ran cold. Voss smirked. "They're coming to finish what they started." The den erupted into chaos as the hybrids armed themselves. The alpha howled, summoning the pack into formation. Emily knelt before the cubs, pressing her forehead to Shadow's. "Stay with Luna. No matter what." Cole handed her a rifle. "We'll hit them at the ridge. Bottleneck their approach." As they moved into position, Emily spotted the first Blackthorn agents, black-clad figures with tranquilizer rifles and flamethrowers. The alpha gave the signal. The forest erupted. Wolves and hybrids attacked in unison, their movements eerily coordinated. Emily picked off agents from the tree-line, her shots precise. Cole fought hand-to-hand, his knife flashing in the moonlight. But then, a scream. One of the bear wolves, collared and controlled, barreled into the fray. It tore through the pack, its movements too calculated, too obedient. Voss's voice crackled over a loudspeaker. "You see? They can be tamed. The wolves are the real pests." The alpha lunged to the controlled beast, locking jaws with it in a brutal dance of teeth and claws. Emily sprinted toward them, but a gunshot rang out. Cole went down, clutching his leg. Emily turned just as an agent leveled his rifle at her head. A blur of gray fur slammed into the man. "Shadow!" The little cub snarled, his baby fangs sinking into the agent's arm. The man shrieked, flinging him off. Shadow hit a tree with a sickening thud and didn't move. Emily's world shattered. Something inside her broke. And then, a howl, but not from the alpha, from her. Emily's scream wasn't human. It ripped through the night like a storm, raw, primal, vibrating with something deeper than grief. The fighting froze. Even the controlled bear wolf hesitated, its ears flattening, her vision tinted red. Her bones ached, and then pain. Her fingers twisted, her nails darkened into claws. A searing heat spread through her veins as her senses exploded. She could smell the fear on the Blackthorn agents, hear Shadow's faint heartbeat where he lay motionless, taste the blood in the air. The Alpha's eyes locked onto hers. You are one of us. Not words. A knowing. Emily moved. She was a blur, tearing through the battlefield. Agents fell before they could blink. The controlled bear wolf turned to face her and whimpered. With a single swipe, she severed its control collar. The beast shook its massive head, then bowed to her. Voss's scream echoed from the loudspeaker. Impossible! The gene therapy was never supposed to... Cole's bullet shattered the speaker. Silence. Then a weak whimper. Shadow. Emily collapsed beside him, her claws retracting as she cradled his tiny body. His breath was shallow, his fur matted with blood. The Alpha nosed her shoulder. Save him. The den's torchlight flickered over Shadow's still form as Emily pressed her forehead to his. The other cubs huddled close, their tiny whines piercing her soul. Luna limped forward, nudging Emily's wrist with her nose, then bit down. Emily gasped as blood welled up. Give him your strength. Luna's eyes seemed to say. Hands trembling, Emily let her blood drip into Shadow's mouth. 1 drop. 2. Nothing. Then, a tiny cough. Shadow's eyes fluttered open, his golden irises now streaked with red. He licked her wound, and the bleeding stopped. A collective howl rose from the pack. Not a mourning, but a celebration. Cole stared, his face pale. Emily, your eyes. She caught a reflection in a nearby puddle. Golden, slitted, like the Alpha's. Voss's files flashed in her mind. Gene therapy, evolution. She wasn't just helping the pack. She was pack. 1 year later. Snow crunched under Emily's boots as she trekked through the forest. Shadow, now grown into a sleek, red-streaked wolf, at her side. The other cubs bounded ahead, their laughter like yips echoing through the trees. The ruins of Blackthorn Labs smoldered in the distance, reclaimed by nature. The surviving hybrids had scattered. Free at last. Cole stepped up beside her, his limp barely noticeable now. They're waiting. At the clearing's edge stood the pack, dozens of wolves, their heads raised in song. The Alpha stepped forward, his first silver with age. It is time. Emily knelt as he nuzzled her cheek, then turned to Shadow. With a final, shuddering breath, the old wolf collapsed, his spirit passing into Shadow in a shimmer of light. The pack howled, their voices shaking the earth. Shadow's eyes burned crimson as he took his place as the new Alpha. Emily pressed her hand to his chest, feeling the pull of the wild in her own blood. She wasn't human anymore. She was more. And as the first snowflakes of winter began to fall, Emily threw back her head and howled. Drop a wolf in the comments if you joined the wolf pack. Bell subscribe and hit the bell for more emotional, binge-worthy stories. New uploads every week.